In the critically acclaimed Shakespeare play, As You Like It, Shakespeare says, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. I'm not gonna lie. That quote rings just as true as it was back then as it is now. Especially when it comes to entertainment. In the entertainment industry, all the world is a stage, all the world is a screen, all the world is the internet, YouTube, streaming, you name it. The world is your oyster. But here's the thing. You've got it all there for you. How do you make it happen? That's what we're going to talk about today on Chatterbox. Today on Chatterbox, we're going to talk a bit more about what it takes, how you get there, the navigation, the ins, the outs, the ups and downs of the entertainment industry, movie making, how to get in that big break. Are you ever going to get that big break? What does it take? How do we stat out? And more than anything else, is there a way to truly navigate this complex, crazy, yet remarkable industry? Well, stay tuned, folks, and let's get started. Hey folks, how y'all doing? This is Al Tessia, and welcome to another episode of Chatterbox. Today, joining me is major entrepreneur, successful businessman, actor, and producer James Coma, live from Madrid. Beautiful place. Haven't been there yet, but it's on the to-do list. How are you doing today, James?
I'm very excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So today we're going to talk about ultimately what I refer to as Hollywood's failure, why they're failing us. People have heard me talk about this kind of stuff on my podcast before, but being somebody who's a lot more experienced in the industry, I'm sure you can give us a better insight as to what you've witnessed and seen as to what's kind of leading to this downward spiral, this failure.
Well, so we were actually talking about it. Hollywood's out of ideas, right? And we're basically telling the same story over and over again. And I feel like the audience is probably like getting bored with it. And yeah, there needs to be some kind of innovation in the industry. And I'm all about that, actually. I'm ready for it.
I'm here. I feel that some of the companies that are really starting to maybe bring us A24, they're putting out some remarkable material and stuff. And I feel that they're helping to kind of pull us out of this cycle of remakes, consistent sequels, and kind of just replicating plot lines into something that, we feel that we can take like this idea that was done like 50 years ago and turn it into something fresh and nobody will recognize. But if you're enough of like a film nerd, or I guess we might say experienced enough in making movies, you're like, wait, this is like a duplicate of something that was done by Hitchcock or Coppola like 30 years ago.
Yeah, I agree with that. And
so what's your thoughts about that?
I feel like Hollywood is it's really calling for independent feature films to take more of the spotlight and take a main role in the industry. But there's a lot of major studios that are still putting all this money and all this big budgets towards all this remakes and all this, again, kind of recycle art, which is it's making the industry lose its magic, right? And it's sad to see that, because from where I stand, I've worked with people who are involved in big studios, and I've worked with independent producers and independent creators. There's a lot of great stuff out there, especially from independent creators and independent filmmakers, right? And Hollywood is craving that, but we need to sort of put it out there and make our way into the big picture. But I think that's where the industry is going in the next decade or so, and we really need to push that forward.
Well, how do you think we bring those indie filmmakers to light? Because if they're the ones who are giving us all this magic, this cinematic magic, and all these fresh ideas that we truly want, what would you say is the key to bringing them into the equation. Hollywood's getting all the attention, they're getting the spotlight, and these indie creators who we only hear about at like film festivals and stuff, they're locked up in the shadows. How do we give them the attention they really need?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question because I look at it from the perspective of, a businessman and an executive. Sort of, so I have that entrepreneurial mind when it comes to Hollywood. But right now, there's a lot of platforms that can help those independent filmmakers have a place in Hollywood. The only problem is getting there. So at the end of the day, it's all the same old story, which is connections, who do you know, and who can help you get there. But getting the right distribution, taking advantage of there are no borders now. You don't need to be necessarily like based in LA or New York or one of the major, film hotspots in order to make it uh, to have a place in the industry. So take advantage of that, right?
Mhm.
Like if you know somebody in London who can help you make the movie, then go and take advantage of that. International productions, all that stuff is out there, and find the right people who can help you take a hold of that, get a hold of that, and find the right people. Surround
Mhm.
yourself with people who can get you in the room, and take advantage of it. This digital era, it's here to stay. And I was talking to you about that earlier. Like, if we use it to, move it forward and push the needle forward, this can really be a huge, uh, a huge change in the industry.
Would you say that Hollywood is like scared of new ideas and that's why they're just recycling shit from the past? Or is it simply that they've just slowed down and they have the wrong people working there, the people who lack creativity and stuff? Because that's kind of the feeling I'm getting, is that they just
Yeah.
are relying on the same people who've been in the business long enough that they have seen everything, they've done everything, that they've run out of new material. Would you say it's because it's that they're scared, or it's just the people who are in the industry at this moment?
I think it's a little bit of both. Um, like change is scary. We've all gone through
Mhm.
change in our lives, whether it was a major change or a small change. Nobody likes change. And when you're talking about an
Mhm.
industry this big as Hollywood, of course they're going to be scared. If I were one of their executives or something like that, I'd be scared shitless. There's AI, there's independent filmmakers, everybody's coming at you, and you just don't know what to do about it. So what do? You get stuck in overwhelm. And I think they're just playing it safe because they don't quite know how to address this shift that's happening in the industry, which is why I think that's the right moment in time for independent filmmakers to make their way into the industry. Because once Hollywood realizes, well,
Mhm.
there's something here, then they're probably going to embrace change and be like, okay, this is what we need to put more money into instead of just, again, recycling old stories or whatever. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Oh, definitely. I totally agree. I mean, me, for some of the material that I like, that I do, and the techniques I will use as when it comes to like videography, um, or kind of like even screenwriting itself. I don't like recycle stuff from the past. I will seek out a level of inspiration from some of my idols, like one of
Yeah.
my biggest being Kubrick, or kind of maybe some of the stuff that Tarantino has done, but I never try to duplicate exactly what they've been
Yeah.
doing, because I feel that that lacks kind of that freshness we need. It's important that we
Yeah.
rely on them as an inspiration and a source of guidance, but like nobody could remake Full Metal Jacket, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah.
Nobody could I saw an interview with Ben Stiller, and he said the movie Tropic Thunder, which I consider to be the greatest Vietnam film of all time, would not be able to be
Love that
made
one.
in 2025.
Probably
Mm-hmm.
not. And it's interesting because one of my biggest not idols, but like my biggest inspirations in the acting industry is Harrison Ford. And so I look up to these guys, right, and what they've done, what they're doing. And he said something that really struck me when I was younger, which he said, never try to duplicate somebody else's success. Like, you got to find your own way. And
Hmm.
so it really struck me because what he did to like get into Hollywood was he knew he had to play the long game, right? And be there for the long run. And so he became a carpenter, had his own business, and then from there he started, building connections, and then he got into the industry, and the rest is history. And I kind of did the same thing, only I got into more of a traditional business, right? I became an entrepreneur and I
Hmm.
got connections and all that stuff. And then this guy who inspired me comes out and says, don't try to duplicate somebody else's success. And I was like, he's right. Like, he's right because
Hmm.
you can get inspired by the story, by an actor, by a creator, by whoever it is, but don't try to do the same thing because then it loses that personal touch and it loses the magic because it's just like a copycat. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. I absolutely agree. I mean, me, unfortunately, most of my idols and inspirations are deceased. My biggest being
Okay.
Stanley Kubrick, another one being Donald Sutherland, who we lost, I think it was this past
Yeah.
year. Yeah, they because one thing I admired about Sutherland as an actor was that, and this is something that I feel very few actors do. I try to do it. Is that Sutherland found a way to bring a little bit of himself to every single character he was playing, whether it
Yeah.
was Mash, Kelly's Heroes, even The Hunger Games. And I mean, my other idols and stuff are John Krasinski, who's another Bostonian actor, um, and he's definitely I'm very impressed by what he's been doing. How he started out as kind of the comedy guy, and now he's moved into screenwriting and directing. Like with A Quiet Place, those films, he actually got praise from Stephen King for what he achieved.
Yeah.
That says something. If you get praise from Stephen King, that means you have mastered horror. You are worthy as a filmmaker of horror.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
And another thing you just said now, which is great, is about how you kind of like made your way into the industry as an entrepreneur and stuff, and of course networking. Uh, Here's the thing, and I think this is something that a lot of people need to understand, especially young people, this new generation who wants to work in the industry, is that there is no real playbook for how to get in.
Yeah.
It is something you kind of have to discover on your own.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that? Like, they need this wisdom just as much as we do.
All right. So that's a very interesting topic, and I'm glad you brought it up because the other day I saw this post on social media. It was about this guy who was like talking to his agent. He was really frustrated, saying, "Well, when am I gonna get my big break?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're thinking about the wrong stuff. Now, it's not about your big break. It's not about you being famous. Like, and if your whole reason for being in this industry is because you want your moment of glory, just go do some reality TV show. Like, you're gonna get your moment of glory, and everybody's gonna forget about you afterwards." Um,
Yeah.
but the most important thing is definitely being in the right room with the right people. That's the biggest thing you could ever do, and not just in the entertainment industry, but whatever you do, just don't stay where you're at
Mm.
because. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, the way I grew up, I was the less likely of all people to succeed, right? And here I am. Once I withdrew myself from that situation, um, once I withdrew myself from that situation, and I started putting myself in the right rooms with the right people, where they were talking about art, where they were talking about networking, dreams, goals, ambition, everything changed because all of a
Mhm.
sudden I realized my dream was not something that was out there far away. It was right in front of my eyes. I was just in the wrong
Mhm.
room. You know what I mean? So, young guys or girls or whatever, if you're trying to break into this industry, first of all, master your craft. Uh, be a student of life. Have a beginner's mind. Be curious about stuff. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to be a fool or be quirky or nerdy or whatever. Just be curious and be invested. And then again, make connections. Just never stop meeting people. Never stop putting yourself out there. Never stop just you know getting to know people, but be genuine about it. Don't just try to sell yourself. Don't
Mhm.
just try to make your
Definitely.
way into stardom. Like, be genuine about your approach and play the long game. Have a look at
Mhm.
the future.
I totally agree 100% with what you're saying. And like you said, like, don't be afraid kind of when it comes, you can't be picky. That's something that I've learned. I remember hearing about Samuel L. Jackson and his mentor. I don't know what his name was. Told him this, and this was the advice that has served him well: is never turn down a role, no matter how ridiculous, stupid, or mundane it may be. Like, never say
Yeah,
no. And as a result, he became the highest grossing actor in Hollywood.
yeah,
That's something that I think also people need to understand: is you can't be picky.
yeah. I think you need to be really mindful too. Like, the most important thing, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the practical stuff that I would tell people. But the first thing is to have a vision, to know where you're going and what you want to do. And once you're clear on that,
Mm-hmm.
then again, start pursuing that. And it doesn't matter how ridiculous the role is. Like, as long as it puts you out there and you're out there doing something, that's the whole point. You're out there doing something, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Michael Caine. He said, there's two types of actors: the actor that waits and the actor that does something while they wait for their, you know, perfect role. So the actor that waits, they're just like waiting there, they're bored, they're getting tired, and then when the perfect role comes up, they get agitated, they get restless, they don't know how to, prepare for it, and they're like, oh my god, I've been out of work for 2 years, now all of a sudden I got this huge movie. Versus the actor that does something while they wait. They might be doing some shitty theater play or something like that, but they're doing something. They're staying in touch with their
Mm-hmm.
craft. And that's something that's really important for me too. That you're constantly in touch with what you're doing, right? And when the moment, the actor that's in touch and is out there doing stuff, when the right role comes and this big, huge movie comes up, they're like, oh, okay, let's do it. Because they already feel ready. Because they've been doing all this work behind the scenes, even if not a lot of people have seen it, but they feel ready because they know they got what it takes and they know that they are prepared.
I couldn't agree more. Totally right. Me, one thing I learned kind of, so I went to film school, but unless you go to like Emerson, IU, or UCLA, do not expect under any circumstances for them to teach you all of this, the business navigation elements of the industry. What they do is they
I
just
agree.
teach you editing, acting, etc. Then they give you a diploma and they're like, okay, get the fuck out of here. You're on your own now. The rest you really have to learn on your own. And one thing I figured out, kind of like when I finally really like started out and kind of got up the energy and the drive to really focus on pursuing a career in filmmaking, is I figured out this: you have to become a jack of all trades if you want to succeed in this industry. You can't rely on your acting chops alone, because if
Yeah.
you do, you're actually going to be a lot more limited than you think. Like, some people have the gift, others, they actually suck ass, and they become, maybe they have one or two hits in Hollywood, but then Hollywood forgets about them and they end up in like reality TV or making Hallmark movies, and people are like, wait, I remember that person, but weren't they around like 20 years ago? I thought they retired. Me,
Yeah,
in order to keep myself consistent, I applied myself with doing just as much behind the scenes as I can in front of the screen. And
mhm,
also, this is my wisdom, it's good to take on the jobs that nobody wants. Like me, I have this consistent gig as a boom operator for a production company here in Massachusetts, Angelwood Studios, because nobody likes doing boom operation because they find it too exhausting. Or like be a gaffer or a key grip, do behind the scenes, more trade based jobs that most
yeah,
people are going to say no to. Because one way or another, you're on a set, you're getting experience, you're making connections, and that can lead you to great places.
yeah. I agree with that. Um, because that's what I was talking about earlier, right? It's like be in the room. And once you're in the room, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Hmm.
What matters is what you do once you're in the room and you got this person in front of you. Like, how do you approach it? Do you just stand on the sidelines and thinking, oh man, I wish I could be like them one day? Or do you approach them and say, hey, listen, I'm working on this stuff. I would love to collaborate.
Hmm.
Like, don't be afraid to go out there. Like, the worst thing that could happen is that nothing happens. And worst case scenario, you have a little awkward moment with a big player or whatever, and then you go home and everything stays the same. But at least you try. You go to sleep and you try and you put yourself out there so you can be proud of yourself, even if it's an awkward moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, what is it? The one of the people who helped me, the film I'm working on right now, I can't disclose too much about it,
I understand.
but it is going to be a feature film. It's going to be in theaters and everything like that. We've been making great progress, and it is amazing. So I did a movie for free. Now I recommend, but at the same time, don't recommend doing films for free, because at the end of the day, we need to have money in our pockets. We got to pay the bills and stuff.
Yeah.
But one free film can change your life. And I met a young woman there, my friend Alana, who is the first AD on the film I'm currently working on. And she and I had already written like two scripts at this time, and I tried to
Okay.
share them with people, and she saw me and she was like, hey, who is this guy who's trying to like share scripts? Wait, he's a screenwriter as well as like being a gaffer and a key grip. Maybe this guy has potential. And then
Yeah.
she helped me kind of get in with the feature film, and like now our director, he wants me, who has 10 years experience in the industry, he wants me to work on his next project. And for his next
Yeah.
project, we're going after having Chris Pine be the lead actor. So
Yeah. I
don't
love
be
that.
afraid to take on that one freebie. That one freebie can lead
Yeah.
to a lot of money in your pocket.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you got to think outside the box. In this industry, one thing that I've
Hmm.
seen is the guys that make it big are not the guys that play by the rules. You gotta be willing to break the rules. Rules are there to be broken,
Hmm.
right? And if you really want to play big, you
Correct.
gotta impress people, or you want to get in the room, get creative about it, because that's what you do for a living, right?
Mm.
So show them that you can do it, right? There's this box that people
Yeah.
think they gotta fit in, and what happens in this industry actually happens outside the box, right?
Mm. I definitely agree. Like, the real magic and where the real connections come from is usually behind the scenes. Like, you
Yeah,
may look at that guy who's the, like I said, the key grip, and you're just like, oh, he just is like the most ripped guy on set because he's loading around all of the equipment and getting stuff set up. When in reality, that guy might actually have a lot of potential as an actor or as like a
yeah,
stuntman. And like you said, you have to be creative and break the rules. Me, I consider myself a maverick. I don't really I have my own style. I do my own thing. And like I had told you earlier, like when I do my own stunts, I take real punches. Some people I know who I've communicated with who are more professional in the industry, they're like, that's not really all that normal these days. That's like, you do that, but at the same time, it can also impress people and show like, wow, this person's really willing to break a few boundaries, even if it means doing stuff that hasn't been done in like 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you. I also consider myself kind of a maverick. But the people that I look up to, the one common thing they all have is, first of all, they played the long game, and second, they were not afraid to break the rules, And so I was like, I always tell people that when I started making progress in this industry was the moment I decided I was going to break the rules and play by my own rules. And that was the moment where people started noticing me. They were like, dude, you got potential, Like, hey, you were born to play this role. I'm like, I know. But it wasn't until the moment where I put myself out there and I said, this is the role I want to play, and here it is, that people started to notice. So when I was a kid, because I started very young, I started professionally when I was 16. I was just like always expecting people to tell me what to do. Like, okay, my agent, right? Like, what role do you want me to play? Oh yeah, you'd be good in comedy. I don't want to do comedy. So now I'm like, yeah, I don't do comedy. It's my rules. Now you're gonna help me, right? Get those roles. But I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to criticism. And I definitely, as I said, keep a beginner's mind. But also, like I said, this guy that was waiting for his big break, your big break is not going to be handed to you. You got to go out there and find it or create it for yourself.
Yeah. And also another thing, I was watching an interview with Josh Brolin earlier, and one thing he said that really sticks with me because it is true is he says, I make movies out of a love for the craft. I do it because I love acting and performing. Now we have this whole generation, their only goal is to get famous. So they like spread themselves all over TikTok and Instagram and consider themselves influencers. And that's just the title they go by professionally, or they make constant YouTubes on a daily basis being like, hey, look at me. Hey, give me all the attention in the world. Feed my ego. I'm going to be famous overnight. I'm like, that's all you want? Really? That's all you want? It absolutely, like, if you love it, that's why you do it. Don't do it just so that you can, I guess one might say, frankly, I think they're more dreamers than ones who make dreams become a reality. What do you have to say about that?
I think I'm really like, I don't know if I'm getting old or what it is, but the generation that's coming after us, I think they're really fucked up. Pardon my French, but like, I look at the way they behave, the way they approach life. I'm like, dude, like, if I did that when I was your age, like, what the fuck would have happened to me? You know what I mean? And I think it's because they grew up with like technology, and the first thing they did when they started crying, their parents gave them a phone to shut them off. So I don't think that they necessarily feel a sense of purpose or a sense of connection with the real world. Like, I grew up like in the 80s. I didn't have a phone until I was like 18 years old. So for me growing up with that, like, I still wrote letters to my grandma when I was 15 years old, right? But I always felt like all I had was my imagination and the movies that I watched. And that became sort of the foundation of what I wanted to do with my life. And I felt a very strong sense of purpose and belonging to the industry. And I knew that I wanted to make a difference. But my driving force goes beyond just being famous or being a celebrity or being an influencer. As a matter of fact, I hate social media. I use it because you got to be out there. But I see it as a tool, not as the actual craft, right? And I think that the generation of kids that's growing up nowadays, they're lacking that that driving force, that sense of purpose. I don't think they feel like they belong. Like they think all there is likes, comments, and how many followers you've got. And it's like you're missing out on 90% of life if that's all there is to life for you.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I only use social media. When I was younger and stuff, I used social media. I think the same way as this current generation who's obsessive with it as a means to just
Yeah.
garner attention and stuff. But then I realized, you know what? It's not all it's cracked up to be. In fact, it's pretty damn toxic and more of a
Yeah.
poison than people understand. Like if you were to go on Facebook right now, you're going to see a lot of hate, judgment, and more than anything else, political scrutiny, which is just
Yeah.
filthy and awful in so many ways. And I mean, I was a little politically vocal on social media, and I got more hate than I could possibly tolerate. So I was, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to
Yeah.
use this as a means to show myself. I'm just going to use this as a tool. I am going to use this as a way to kind of promote what I can do as a podcaster, what I do as an actor, a videographer, a jack of all trades, a screenwriter. I'm going to use this as my connection tool. And I've talked with a lot of people who are our age and of our generation. They said, yeah, that's kind of, or at least people who kind of have businesses or entrepreneurs like yourself or working in the industry, they're like, yeah, now I no longer really use it for the kind of the glam effect, as I put it. They just use it as a marketing tool. And that's the best way to use it.
Yeah. And that's what I do too. Like social media should be a tool or a platform, but again, it's not all there is. And so for me, it's just like, back in the day, you had a little, notebook with all the phones and all the emails of people. Now you have Facebook, or now you have whatever it is that you're using, LinkedIn or whatever. But it's a platform for you to connect, to build relationships, to show yourself, to promote your work or your business, because, there's business pages and all that shit. But yeah, it's not your life. Like, you're not your social media, you're not that. And it's really it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here, like the next decade or so, when these kids grow up to be our age. Are they going to realize what it's all about, or are they going to stay stuck in this fantasy of online lives, or whatever you want to call it?
I have a feeling that a decent bulk of them, if they aren't, how do I put it? I mean, I'm never going to give anybody advice as to how to raise their kids because I don't have kids yet. But then again, a lot of people of our generation are saying no to children, but that's a discussion for another day. But I think if these kids, this new generation, is contained and trapped in that bubble where the only thing they really know as a toy is an iPhone or an iPad, and their favorite go-to, like if you see interviews with kids today, their favorite thing to watch is YouTube videos. That's their obsession. If they continue staying locked in that bubble, that's like, I feel that's gonna like maybe destroy the industry and cause it to go downhill, because they're not gonna learn to branch out and explore what's really, really out there in entertainment. That's all they'll know.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, for me, I gained more knowledge about how to be an actor and like how to play roles from my own experience, from like going out there and having odd jobs and building a business and going through the whole journey, than I ever did by just learning about it in a class or whatever it was. Like, you gotta go out there and have the actual experience, and then that raw feeling, you bring it into the characters you play. That's powerful. But like, how are you gonna play a character or a role, not just in the screen or in a production or whatever, like in your life? if all you know is this,
Hmm.
this fake kind of life, like I don't know how to put it, but and I mean, social media is a great tool if you know how to use it. As I said, you could watch videos and
Hmm.
scroll endlessly all day long, like these kids do, or you could watch stuff that actually adds value to your life, right? And watch documentaries and
Hmm.
watch other actors and whatever it is, just learn from it. And if you use it like that, then man, you've
Hmm.
got a really powerful tool that could change your life. But these kids are not using it like that, and that's the concerning part of it all, is that it's just entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. Like they constantly need an input of content to like keep them plugged. They gotta stay plugged into this virtual world, otherwise they just don't know how to
Hmm.
live. And that's like, you again, like
Oh.
they're thinking about it in the wrong way, because the real entertainment happens when you go out there, you have an experience like, oh man, I could write about that, or you get inspired by whatever it is, the most mundane things like a sunset, right? That inspires me, like, the starry night. It's like I get inspired looking at the stars, and sometimes I come up with scripts or movie ideas or projects, people to reach out to, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't even need a phone to do that. That's the real
I
value.
totally agree, and definitely, yeah, and definitely what you said, like how you kind of learned to act from your own life experiences. Me, there are kind of, I guess one might say, two ways I learned to act. You've been in this industry since you were 16. When I was 16 years old, and I've talked about this on a few podcasts, including my own, I was a member of a theater cult. And
Okay.
from that, the thing yes, yeah, I can explain that to you afterwards. The thing is, with that, what I learned, I was exposed to as I refer to it, the Hollywood underworld and the dark stuff that goes on when the cameras aren't rolling. Things that will make you realize that what Weinstein did, and what Diddy did as well. This is actually stuff that's been going on consistently, dating all the way back to like the 20s and stuff.
Yeah.
So what I learned from that is that there is definitely actually not always glitz and glamour to it that people think. What happens when the camera is not rolling or when the curtains are closed will cause you a level of trauma that will last decades.
Yeah.
So I'm actually glad I learned that lesson younger in life. But one thing I've also learned from acting is I've learned from all of the jobs I've had where I basically had to pretend to love what I was doing, when in reality, in the back of
Yeah.
my head, I was actually screaming, "This sucks. I absolutely hate it." Literally, the
I feel you,
jobs you
man.
have can teach you how to act.
Yep.
Yeah, because a lot of us, whether we believe it or not, we are acting. We're pretending.
Yeah. And Shakespeare said, the world's a stage and the men and women merely players. I live by that quote
Hmm.
because, as I said, like we're all acting, we're all pretending. And like the way I grew up and the person I was when I was 16 years old has nothing to do with who I am today. Like I had to completely change
Hmm.
my way of being. So I know from experience that if I
Hmm.
can change, how does that change come about? You pretend. Like one day you just wake up and you pretend that you
Hmm.
like to work hard. Next thing you know, after a few months, you're actually working hard and you're like, yeah, this isn't that hard. This isn't that difficult. Or like
Hmm.
one day you just start telling yourself, I could be an entrepreneur, I could be a business owner. And then over time you start to believe it,
Hmm.
and you are. So like at the end of the day, we're all pretending, we're all actors. And like if you don't believe me, just Thanksgiving's coming up. Just pretend to like your mother-in-law or whatever. Like, are you not pretending? Are you not acting? You know what I mean? I'm just kidding, by the way.
Oh, pretend because it's
Yeah.
more personal than work and jobs. Like when you're with them,
Yeah.
one way or another, unless you're really, really good at controlling yourself, there's gonna be drama that family
Oh yeah.
is not gonna want to see. I come from a very complex, dysfunctional family, and
Me
oh
too.
my god, it's probably one of the reasons why I've distanced myself so much from them. is because I don't want to be entangled in that drama and stuff like that. And also, one thing I really hated was kind of also my family trying to control my life.
Oh
That's
man, I feel
one bit
you.
of advice I actually give people. One bit of advice I give people, life advice: don't ever listen to your parents. Like, seriously, don't. My
Yeah,
my
hundred
mother
percent.
had my entire life planned out for me from the moment I was like 16 onwards and stuff. I mean, she tried to get me an arranged marriage. That says something alone.
Holy shit. Yeah, yeah. That's really, that's the other thing that kids nowadays. I mean, I think they're a little bit more free thinkers than we were. At least from my experience, it took a while for me to actually realize how dark and toxic and kind of cult-like my family was. But once I
Mm-hmm.
broke free from that, I was like, you know, the possibilities are endless. And like kids nowadays, I don't think that they're as attached as we were to like our parents or like families, and maybe they have it better than we did because they're free thinkers. They just go out there, do their own shit, even if they're on their phone all day, but they got their own lives, and you can't tell them what to do, which in a way it's good, you know. And I think if they apply it in a positive way, they could really, again, make a change in the world as long as they know how to apply it. Which is, again, if you're plugged to your phone all day, then how are you gonna do that? But yeah, like one thing that I realized, me personally, and I don't usually like talk about my past because I don't think it's something that defines me. Um, what I learned from my dad is who not to be. Like the only thing that motivated me from my dad was I never want to be this person. I never want to marry the person my dad married, and I never want to be as controlled by my family as my dad was. So if like you gotta approach life, and that's why I say that I learned more from life experience than from an acting class, is that you can take all of that and say, oh my god, I'm so fucked up, and I hate this thing that happened to me. Or you can take and say, well, what can I learn from it, from this? How can I use this to be better? How can I use this or alchemize it for a role? How can I tell a story,
Mm-hmm.
you know, through the way I felt or through what I've learned? And I always say that actors and creators are basically alchemists of life experiences. You take something that happened to you and you put it into
Mm-hmm.
writing and you create something that's really amazing. And it might not have anything to do with the
Mm-hmm.
actual story, but like the background of it, it has everything to do with you and your story. I think that we tell our stories through the characters we play and through the movies that we write and through the projects that we create. Even if we don't tell the actual story, but like there's always bits of us in each character and in every story.
I definitely agree. I mean, me, I was the same way. My father, I'm like, I am not going to become this man at all. I'm
Yeah,
not going to become an alcoholic. So many people, so many of the men in my family are really, really toxic. And when I mean that, I mean like criminal records, drug use, and stuff like that. And I realized, I think when I was maybe like 16, 17 years old, that it was my duty to break that cycle, to break the chain of
yeah,
toxic men in the family. I'm like, if I am influenced by them or follow their example, then this will never stop. This will never end. It's going to be the same thing.
yeah,
Intoxication, abuse, just this profanity, awful, disgusting behavior and image where the whole world looks at you as if you are the biggest asshole on earth, because they were, and they are, they still are. I mean, I evicted my father from my life when I was 26. He doesn't know that my wife even exists at all. He doesn't even know she exists.
yeah. And I'm not
And I
surprised.
mean, is that something? is that something that it actually devastates my mother, because she feels that my dad is missing out on my life and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. If I kept him in my life, your son would probably be a full-on duplicate of him, and imagine what that would be like. And yeah, it's just, yeah, don't listen to your parents. Like, they even tried to talk me out so many times of pursuing my dream of acting and working in filmmaking. They would say it's not all it's cracked up to be and it's terrible and stuff like that. And I think their mission almost was to break me with that, which is kind of like cruel, if you ask me. Like, you have to follow your dreams. You have to, like, listen to your gut. You have to pursue what you want most, because we are the future of this industry. We were talking about this before. Do you agree it is time for our generation to take over the industry? What do you have to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of said, I kind of gave clues about this, but first of all, dreams. Your dreams are there for a reason. If you have this voice inside of you that keeps saying you have to pursue this, you have to try this, you have to try this, it's not going to go away until you die. And the one thing you don't want to do is die with regrets and die thinking, what would have happened if I did? As I said, worst case scenario, you don't make it, but at least you try, right? So go after it. And if people don't understand, they're probably the wrong people to be in your life, right? But as you said, I think it's time, not just for our generation, but for independent creators to take a stand and take a leading role in the industry. Because I don't know if you already said that or not, but I think that Hollywood and the industry at large is kind of on hold, right? Like, they know the change is coming. They know that they got to do something about it. But they're afraid. It's like they're stuck in overwhelm because they don't quite know what the next steps are going to be, or like what the next generation is going to be all about. But I do think that independent filmmakers now, with this digitalization of the world and all that stuff, again, as a tool, they have a major opportunity to take a leading role in the industry and get their movies out there. And I think that Hollywood is starting to realize that there's probably more potential in just independent films, or more like, small budget productions, than there is in, as we said, recycling old stories. So I think that's where the industry is gonna move towards. It's gonna take some time, but I do see a pattern, and I do see that there's a tendency to go there. And more small production companies are taking more of a kind of a leading role in the industry. Yeah, like they're out there, and their small companies are now almost competing with major studios, and that's good, because we should all be in the same playing field.
Yeah. I mean, me as a screenwriter, and I tell people this all the time, I never do the same thing twice. My biggest inspiration was Stanley Kubrick, and Steven Spielberg described him as a chameleon because he never did the same thing twice. If you see all of his movies, there's no pattern to them aside from the legendary Kubrick stare. You're not going to see a pattern in genre or theme under any circumstances. Every time I write something new, you're like, wait, this guy wrote My Cousin Juan, now he's writing a comedy? Like, what gives? Because it is important that you never do the same thing twice. That shows creativity, that shows your range, that shows your potential, but it also gives people something new and something fresh that honestly they are craving. Another thing is I chastise Disney so much on both on my podcast and also to my friends in the industry. I've told them I will never work for Disney. One, they own everything, and two, they have officially failed us. when they posted that they were going to make a live action version of Snow White on social media, I commented immediately, "This will fail. You are making the biggest mistake of your lives." And was I right? Absolutely. So would you said like the magic has died. What do you say about that? I mean, I don't know if you'd be willing to work for Disney or have, but like, have they failed? Is there no more magic?
I don't think that there isn't any more magic, but I do think that it's time for a renewal. Like I don't want to. I don't like to, shit on specific companies or anything like that because you never know. I think that we should give everybody a fair chance. And so the same way that I'm, pushing for independent creators, I also think that we need to give major studios a chance to reinvent themselves because we don't know. We might they might surprise us, And this new era that we're entering, collectively, not just in Hollywood but in everything else, it's a time where either you adapt or you die, and it's the natural process of life. So again, just I advocate for giving everybody a fair chance. Let them show you what they're capable of, you know but yeah, and again, and if they don't adapt, they're gonna die because again, it's the natural process of nature, and it happens all the time. But there needs to be a renewal, that's for sure.
And I like what you just said about give everyone a chance, because one thing, and it's understandable in this industry, I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times with your experience and what you've worked with, is that you will notice that a lot of directors will stick to the same actors or the same ensemble. And typically that does have to do with networking, that has to do with experience, that has to do with talent and stuff like that. Like Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, how many times have they collaborated? So many times. Quentin Tarantino and Samuel Jackson, almost every single movie he's been in. Denis Villeneuve and Josh Brolin. He's become a key player in most of Denis' films. So you will see that pattern, but I really do agree that they need to maybe not break that pattern, because they are sticking with people who they know, who they're familiar with, who they can work with. But I do feel that they need to start being like, hey, we've got somebody fresh and new here who's proven some talent to us. Let's start working with them. Or maybe they need to open their eyes a bit wider. Am I right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm the kind of guy that, I've been working with the same guys in my business that I met when I started out, because they're good guys. I know they can deliver, and so I would rather have those guys on my team that they already know me, that I already trust, and I know them, than just bring somebody in that might screw up big time, right? But I also, as I said, I think everybody deserves a fair chance. So I don't think that working with people that you trust, like, as you said, this is all about networking, and I know exactly how the game works, and I'm all for it. But I don't think that, and this is one thing that Hollywood needs to understand, is that those two things can exist at the same time. You could bring in, you could bring on somebody new to the team, and at the same time still have the same, people that you've already worked with because you trust them. Like, you could innovate and at the same time keep your, conservative values, or whatever it is, how you want to call it, right? Like, you could do both. It's not that one thing it's not one thing or the other. It can be both.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And the thing is, like, my curiosity is this: with all these independent film companies and the ones that are surfacing and really getting good recognition, like A24, like I had mentioned before, what do you think is this? What do you think might be the secret sauce, the way for them to finally kind of break out of their shell and being so contained and really proving themselves so that they can get the attention they deserve, so that they can start being more powerful in the industry. Do you feel that there's some sort of way that's capable, or is that just yet to come?
Well, as we said, like there's no playbook, there's not really a blueprint how you make it in this industry or any industry. And I think that a lot of people, they're always looking for that secret, for that key. And the key and the secret is there is no key, there is no secret, right? You got to go out, do your stuff, and push it out there. Like, don't just wait for some big studio to say, "Oh, wow, you did such a great job." You know, it's the same with companies than it is with actors. Like, your big break's not gonna come, you create it. So for independent
Yes.
uh, companies and for independent productions, it's just like find a way to get that movie made and find a way to get it right in front of the audience. And if the audience likes you, the audience is going to keep coming back for more. And that's how you get it out there, is because at the end of the day, you create 50% for yourself but 50% for the audience. And it doesn't matter how great the movie is, if the audience doesn't want to see it, you've got no chance. But if you create something good, even if it's a small budget thing, if people like the story, if people like, the acting, and it's well crafted, it's well done, well edited, the audience is going to keep coming back, and they're going to be out there begging for more. So I think it's going to be more of like kind of like having a one-on-one relationship with the audience, as opposed to just, hey, here's this big movie, come see it. Like, we gotta go directly to the audience instead of just going through big studios and big distribution. There's a huge opportunity, and I mean this because there's even distribution companies that are going and creating platforms specifically for independent projects, and there's people that want to see that. So again, those people are out there. You give them what they want and they're going to keep coming back for more. And I think that's sort of the secret sauce to it.
Yeah, like, I mean, because like I've the project I'm working on right now, I'm working with a special effects artist, and he's been in the industry for 20 years. And I'm like, wait, you've been doing this for 20 years? Why haven't I heard of you in some sort of big name picture and stuff like that? And he actually told me the reason why is because even after 20 years of like making it look like somebody has 16 gunshot wounds to the chest, or that they got their penis blown off, or like their eye gouged out, he's still learning and navigating the industry, because at the same time, it's changing so much. It is not what it was back in 2000. It's a whole new ball game. And also, what you said, like I about like, don't go after something because it's like so popular and big and stuff. I was peer pressured by friends of mine into seeing Top Gun Maverick. They're like, it's so good, it's so good. I sat down, I watched it. I thought, this is what I said. I was like, Tom Cruise was the worst actor in that film. Like,
Oh,
I'm
man.
like, the cinematography was amazing and the aviation choreography, but I'm like, Tom Cruise was the worst actor in that film. I'm like, Miles Teller and John Hamm did a better job.
I can't agree with that because Tom Cruise is literally the whole reason why I'm doing this. Yeah, I'm going to be straightforward. I can't agree with you on that one because what this guy is doing is really out of this world. I like the guy, and I think he's doing a great job because he's leading the industry. But yeah, I think here's another thing that I think is also sort of influencing Hollywood, which is The Division. And I'm not going to get political because I think you and I probably have different opinions as far as political stuff. But like, we should be able to have an honest conversation. Like, it's art. We are all creating to tell a story. We all have our motives. And I think that we've made it all about, taking a stand and, what side are you on? Dude, we're all on the same side. Like, if we can put our differences aside and just understand that, it's business. Who cares who you vote for? Who cares who's your favorite actor? Who cares Like it's really not relevant as long as we're all going towards the same goal,
Hmm.
right? Like, you might have a certain opinion, I might have a different one, but at the end of the day, if we can get the job
Hmm.
done and we can, again, run together towards the same goal, who cares?
Hmm. Yeah, and what you mentioned with politics, that's actually one of the things that I try to steer clear of in the content I
Mhm.
write. I really try to be as politically neutral as I can. The only thing that I guess one might say politically, like in the the script I'm currently writing, Phantom, I do mention kind of the mesh opinions about like Israel and Palestine and stuff like that. And I do want to write a script for a movie that focuses on what's going on right now in Gaza and everything like that. But that's more also because I do believe that there's a lot of real world stuff out of there that needs to garner attention, and you need to tell the truth. You need to shed light on core topics, but I try not to be really all that political and stuff with what I do, because I feel that actually ruins it. That ruins the
Yeah,
art and stuff. You're making more of a statement of your opinions than you are making something that's cinematically beautiful.
yeah, I agree with that. And I've seen a trend in Hollywood recently, which is trying to represent everybody. Like, I saw this movie, I can't remember
Hmm.
what movie it was, but there was like a gay character in a terror movie. I was like, it's totally irrelevant. Like, nothing against gay people, okay? Um, I, lean more towards the conservative side, but I have nothing against gay people. It's just that in the context of that movie, there was no place for a gay character. Everything has its place, right? And if you're, you know, writing a drama with Meryl Streep, then maybe, yeah, there could be something there, right? And you could shed more light by putting the right character in the right movie than just by trying to make everybody
Hmm.
happy. Like, that's something that we
Yeah.
lost. We completely lost it. Like, we're just trying to give
Hmm.
everybody a voice, get everybody represented. It's impossible. Like, just tell the story. Don't worry about pissing off people because, as I said, rules are there to be broken. And people are gonna get pissed off, but you tell your story any way you want. You know what I mean?
Called the Iron Lady, which is about Margaret Thatcher, one of the most iconic conservative politicians of the 20th century, the most hated by most opinions. Prime Minister in the history of the UK. But at the same time, when people watched that film, they loved it. They adored it. Not because, like, they weren't actually, when you see that movie, you don't think a lot politically, believe it or not. You think
Yeah,
more in the instance of just Meryl's performance and how well she's able to embody that of Thatcher and her attitude, her opinions, her strengths, her weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and stuff. Like, unless you really are deeply, deeply uh, politically opinionated and stuff, all of that just faded away and stuff,
yeah,
which is actually straight up great.
yeah. And I think the other thing that I do is like, and I'm open about it. Like, I'm more of a conservative guy, but I like to watch
Hmm.
even things that are not necessarily aligned with what I believe because it's like I want to see what's out there.
Hmm.
I want to open my mind. And I don't think of movies and art and entertainment as a, political ground. It's like live that at home, live that,
Yeah.
to the Senate or whatever.
Hmm.
And I like politics, but it's like there's a place for everything. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think we need to open up a little bit about that on both sides, both conservative, both liberals. Like, we
Hmm.
just need to open up, and it's just like it's art, it's entertainment. Who cares? Like, loosen up a little bit now.
Hmm. And there is a movement. I read about it on social media. I don't think it's too big now or hasn't really grown that much, but there is a movement in the industry by some leading figures, Denzel Washington, Mark Wahlberg, to, as I guess one might put it, neutralize the entertainment industry and kind of
Yeah.
break the political gridlock that's holding it, and just be I guess one might say, be free
Hmm.
in the industry, kind of, which I'm a little nervous about what that will bring, but at the same time I'm open to it because
Yeah.
things are changing and we need to learn to adapt with that change, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about, right? Like, I read about that movement. I was like, finally, because yeah, it's like we've
Mm-hmm.
been pushed towards, like, again, just like keeping everybody happy. Everybody needs to be represented. And it's like, now we
Mm-hmm.
need to just tell the story. And I think it's good that we have guys like that, which is interesting because
Mm-hmm.
most of those guys are actually more on the right side. You wouldn't expect those guys to be the ones pushing for this. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good, and I think that that movement needs to happen because it's what we need, and that's just my personal opinion. But I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree, and even though it makes me a little nervous and apprehensive, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. It's about time, because
Yeah,
this will definitely open people's eyes a bit more, and it will also, whether we believe it or not, create a lot more creative liberties and freedoms that we really need. Like, we're just gonna
yeah,
it's people need to step in and break the chain and just be like, let's be as open as we can be. Don't let, because one thing that really sucks is the level of censorship that exists within a lot of movies and within Hollywood itself. And I think it's time we just absolutely killed that censorship. Because if you
yeah,
watch like Korean cinema or stuff they make in France and stuff, there is no censorship at all. Which is why I think that a lot of like Korean films and European films are actually better than some of the shit that Hollywood's been putting out the past 10 years.
yeah. And I mean, I don't really like European cinema. I've been involved with it because, again, I live in Europe right now, and so I work with both
Mm-hmm.
sides, right? I work in Europe and I work in the United States. Um, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, I think that, particularly at least the movies that I've either been involved in or
Mm-hmm.
watched that were made in Europe, they
Mm-hmm.
kind of lack a little bit of, like, it's just like, and I hate to say it because I know this is gonna piss people off, but it's just a bunch of shots put together trying to tell something that it's not even there. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the story? What's the depth? What's, I don't know. There's no thrill. You know what I mean? And that's something that American cinema does have, which is the thrill, the action,
Mm.
the exaggeration, if you will. But that's what makes it magic. That's what makes it powerful. You know?
True. Very true. For me, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of European cinema. I do like some of the stuff that they make in France. They've done some
Mhm.
pretty impressive work, and it cycles back to, I watched an interview with the late French actor Gaspard Ulliel, God rest his soul, who, as we know, passed away just a few years ago at the young age of 36 to be exact. But he said in the interview that at one point he had tried to establish himself in Hollywood, but in his opinion, it felt like starting again from scratch, because he's a legend in France. If you were to
Yeah.
go to France right now and mention him, the people are going to applaud. They're going to clap. He was such a well-respected actor over there. But what he also said was this: what he looks for in roles is stuff, or did look for in roles, is stuff that pushes him out of his comfort zone, stuff that allows him to experiment and try something entirely new. It's not that he has anything against Hollywood, because he did say that he was getting offers from the US from time to time. But for him, it was more about the appeal of the role and the material and the content that is being covered in said film.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with that a lot because interestingly for me it's the other way around. Right? Like I have a lot of connections in
Mm-hmm.
LA and these big cities in the US. I go out on the
Mm-hmm.
street sometimes, I'm walking around Madrid and everybody's like doesn't even know who I am. You know, they're like, sure, what? James Common, so what? You know, and I'm sure that depending on what
Mm-hmm.
room you're in, you drop my name, somebody might
Mm-hmm.
know who I am. Just, you know, might have overheard or something, but they might
Mm-hmm.
know. Just, you know, it's out there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've kind of established myself within certain circles. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the connections, networking, and all that stuff. And then it's interesting because over here it's like, you're just a fucking face in the crowd, dude. And it was interesting. At first, it
Mm-hmm.
did piss me off a lot because I was like, dude, everything I've worked for, it means nothing. And he was like, no, it's not that it doesn't mean anything. It
Mm-hmm.
just means that, and the way I approach it is, I just have an opportunity to explore other types of roles, right? I'm still doing all this stuff over
Mm-hmm.
in the US, but you know, there's still opportunities for like theater in London. I've recently fallen in love with like Oscar Wilde, Shakespeare, and all those, you know, contemporary theater plays. And it's like I've discovered a new passion. I never thought I would be the kind of guy to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, do an Agatha Christie play or anything like that. And then I was like, once I was introduced to it, yeah, it pushed me out of my comfort zone, but yeah, there's something there, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I think that's what the whole point of doing this is about, is just exploring what you like, what you don't like, and getting out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and just try out new things, see what works, see what doesn't, and just don't be so worried. As we said earlier, don't be so worried about your big break. Don't be so worried about the, you know, being typecast or whatever. Just do it for our sake, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. And I've seen interviews with some big name A-list actors, and they actually, what was it, Sir Anthony Hopkins, prior to getting the role as Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs, he was actually ready to quit in Hollywood and said, you know what, I'm thinking, I was on this path, I wasn't really doing too much. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go back to doing Shakespearean theater in London and stuff like that. And I also know that David Harbour, he actually prefers theater a lot more than he does filmmaking. So he balances it quite often. Like, he's not always doing Stranger Things. A lot of times he'll be in New York doing something on the Broadway stage. Um, and I mean, I because of my previous experiences in theater and stuff like that, I don't gravitate towards it as much as I did when I was younger. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's because, like, being a member of a theater cult, being exposed to a darker side of the industry kind of shook me inside and made me look at it very differently. But when I do write, I'm a Shakespeare buff, and I do seek out a lot of inspiration from the material he put out. The script I'm currently writing right now, Phantom, is a Shakespearean romance drama, and one thing I tried to do
Okay.
was not duplicate Shakespearean plays, but kind of fabricate characters based off of Shakespearean characters and find a way to mesh them together. I saw inspiration from Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, King Lear,
Yeah.
The Taming of the Shrew, and stuff like that, and found a way to kind of mesh them all together in this beautiful, poetic way. Because, well, that's also something new. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
films are based, that we know, like 10 Things I Hate About You is based off of The Taming of the Shrew. But when's the last time you heard about somebody who took individual Shakespearean characters from plays that are polar opposites and meshed them together?
Yeah. And that's very creative, by the way. That's very cool, you know. Um, Yeah, and I personally, I wasn't big on theater either. I was trained in cinema. I love movies, and I never in my life thought I would be doing theater.
Hmm.
But the opportunity just kind of presented itself on its own, and I was like, sure, why
Hmm.
not? Let's try it, because I was bored, honestly. I was just bored, and I wanted to do something. And now I'm kind of finding, yeah, that there's something to it. I might like doing that too, So, yeah, interesting.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean me, I think I also like me. I always wanted to be like on the big screen and stuff like that. And some people like they do recognize my acting chops. And one thing that's also helped me out like a bit on in regards to like getting gigs and stuff is being what I refer to as Mr. Regular, which is actually
Hmm.
the title of a film I plan to make, which would be about a young like 29, 30 something year old struggling actor and how to navigate into the industry, because I think it would be actually really great to show a film
Yeah.
about how people break in and the steps, the drama, how they balance out their life in order to get where they want to be. I think that's definitely it would be an interesting film. But yeah,
I have a lot of insight
I'm
on
Mr.
that if you
Regular.
want. You could even write about me.
Oh, I definitely am.
Just kidding.
um, well, actually, my part of my inspiration is one of my idols. Like I said, many of them are deceased. Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, because I know that from interviews I've seen with people who knew him so well, like Paul Bettany and stuff. He was Mr. Regular, just that guy who's on set, who knows how to maintain an absolute state of neutrality, has a good, healthy, laughable relationship with the cast as well as the crew. Like, just stays the peace, maintains the neutrality, and everybody just wants to give him a high five and stuff. I feel that if
Yeah.
you are Mr. Regular in the industry, you will go places, because like
Yeah.
I've worked with people who are absolute divas and they drove me crazy. They still drive me crazy.
Yeah. And that's the one thing when I said think outside the box is most
Hmm.
people, especially actors, right? They're out there because they want to be on camera and all they care about is their role and how much time they have on
Hmm.
screen and how many lines they have to say and how pretty their face looks. Wrong stuff.
Hmm.
You gotta be there and look, you might be hired as an actor, but if you can also like help with production, good. Maybe you're not good on production, but you're really good at working
Hmm.
the camera. Offer your help. Just be involved.
Hmm.
I think that's the secret is to be involved,
Yes.
be hands-on, and just to master, again, be a jack of all trades. Not just worry about your pretty face. That's gonna come. And but just be there for people and find a way, like a creative way to uh, break into the industry and make yourself known. And so for me, it was like, I'm a business owner, so I could help people with the business side of things. You might be great at other stuff. So,
She actually was the one who helped me kind of regain that spark and everything. Um, because here's another thing that I think we should definitely talk about is that some people, after they've started out like with a few earlier things like local theater or even just in film school and stuff like that, if they aren't given the tools and the knowledge that they have to navigate the industry, the lust, love, and spark for it will die. Uh, what do you think about that? Do you think that's true or?
well, again, from my experience, I definitely did go through a period of time where I just kind of, it's not that the spark died, because, again, I feel a very strong sense of purpose in this industry, and I'm playing the long game. But there was a period of time where I was just like, man, I need to take a break, and I did take a break. And eventually,
Mm,
that was the best thing I could have ever done because I came back with more resources, renewed energy, and but the thing is that you have to go out and find those resources. Like if you're just waiting around for somebody to give you what you need, it might not happen at all. So people should be more proactive when it comes to filmmaking and acting and all that stuff. Like, as I said, don't wait for your big break. Go out and make it happen. And I think it was Quentin Tarantino that said the best film school you could ever attend is for you to go out and make a movie. Now that's when you're gonna learn the real thing, and I totally agree with that,
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, one thing, like, and I remember hearing that about Tarantino, him saying that. He said, I didn't go to film school, I went to films. Because you don't
Yeah,
learn from school, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not. You learn from doing, you learn from working, you learn from your experience and stuff. Like, a lot of, I don't want to say like everything I've learned in the industry, I've learned from like doing on set and stuff like that, but the exposure, the experience, and just communicating with these people has definitely helped me to open my eyes, broaden my horizons, and realize, oh, with this job and stuff, there's a lot of potential you have. With this job, there's a lot of potential. You know what? You have the groove for this, you have the groove for that. That's, you don't learn from reading textbooks, going to lectures, and writing essays. You learn from
true.
being on set, in front of the camera, behind the camera, and associating yourself with the PAs, the director, the DP. That's how you learn. Next to
Yeah,
that, the classroom is
and that's
bullshit.
why it's important to be Mr. Regular.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. That's why. Yeah, and that's a movie I want to make. I want to make Mr. Regular. I want to show the new generation more than anything else. This is how the industry really works. Like, I mean, and I know that I've met a few people who actually don't like movies about making movies, which, I mean, that's their opinion. I thought Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was phenomenal. It was a great movie, a movie about making
Oh yeah,
movies. But I want to make a movie that's not exactly about making movies, but about how do you step into making movies? What does it take? Because what is it? Demi Lovato said in the documentary Child Star, there is no manual as to how to navigate this industry at a young age.
yeah,
And it's just something you learn along the way. And that's something that I want people to know. Like, you want to know how to navigate this industry? You know what? We're going to show you. You're going to see a movie
yeah,
about how to navigate this industry. But if you want to do well, you have to be Mr. Regular.
yeah. That's a very interesting movie, and you and I definitely have to talk more about that off camera.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we will. Trust me. You're. I think you're gonna like it. You're definitely gonna like it. And I'm thinking about making that one a bit sooner rather than later. Like some of the stuff I've mentioned to you, like when I talked about the movie The Freak, which for all you listeners out there, yes, it's gonna be about the freak off parties and Diddy. Well, Diddy can go fuck himself in prison. Okay? I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that. I mean, yes, I was told I need to wait at least 3 years before the heat dies down. The heat's not going to die down in 3 years. It's going to die down in like at least 10 years. So, you know what? I'm going to tell it sooner rather than later. Because also, people need to know about the Hollywood underworld. That's another thing that I want people to know about. Is you really want to know what happens when the camera isn't rolling? We'll show you.
Nice way to end the podcast. Now, I feel like if we keep talking now, we're gonna ruin the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, well, I'm not going to ruin it. I'm just going to end it like this. Look, guys, so to all you media junkies out there, anyone who's listening in, if you want to support this podcast, have a chance to be a guest on the show, you can follow me on Instagram at ATK Media or check me out on YouTube at chatterbox-94. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. You can DM me via Instagram, and you can tune in, listen on Spotify, Amazon Music, which I finally recently got on. Amazing. And just about anywhere you get your podcasts from. I'm always open to new guests, new topics. But hey, for me, it's all about media and movies. That's my go-to. Anything you want to say to our listeners, James?
No, I think I just want to thank you for having me on the podcast. I definitely had a great time talking to you. It was really productive, and I honestly didn't expect to be, to have so much fun here. So, if anyone out there who's a movie freak or who's in the industry wants to, partner up with this guy, definitely do it. You're not gonna regret it. So, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great having you on the show, James. Till next time, folks, stay high on life. Out.